Today we're going to talk about how to install the CB1 with eMMC on the Big Tree Tech Manta M8P version 2. So I need to talk about a couple of things, obviously. So as you can see, there's two different CB1s here. This one does not have eMMC, but this one does, which is this little square module right here. Basically, that's onboard memory, so you don't need to use an actual SD or micro SD card. So let me show you this as best I can. At a tilted angle, you can see the actual eMMC right here. So to place this on, obviously we're going to have to connect it with the two ports. And the orientation is going to be like this. We'll just have to line up the actual holes so we get them just right. Then pressure here and pressure here. That's how you install it. So next thing is I'm going to test the antenna, which is this little cupped connector here so that we can use Wi-Fi. So I got to align it over the obviously little cup below. So hopefully I can get this in easily, otherwise I'll have to do it a different way. So let's see if I can get this in. Whoop. There we go. So that's in nice, pardon me. So normally I would use a thermal block on here with a fan, but currently I'm just showing you how to do the basic install. Now there's dip switches over here. Now you might not be able to see the actual numbers on them right now, but it starts at 1 and ends at 4. The dip switches that we need to change are 3 and 4. So I'm going to push this one over and this one over, which is 3 and 4, so that they're in the on position. Then I'm going to connect the USB cable to the computer here. I'm not powering it via the jumper over here. I've taken that off so I can use the actual direct power supply. So currently it's unplugged. I'm also going to connect an HDMI, and this is going to be what's known as a headless install, meaning that there's going to be no display in this particular tutorial, just for brevity and also to show you an issue that I came across. So I'm going to plug this in now. You're probably going to hear a beep on the computer, so I'll show you this real quick. Now I'm going to go over to my actual desktop screen and show you what you need. So on the desktop, we're on the Big Tree Tech GitHub page. And essentially, we can search for our repositories. So if we want to look for the Manta, we can do Manta, and this will show us where our manual is and what we need to know. So we're on version 2. The other thing that we can do is the actual CB1, which is going to have eMMC. So CB1, and we're going to have to go over to the OS system. So inside here there's a manual. It's not real helpful, but you'll need to know the stuff down below where it says readme, such as the login password, and then of course the latest system update for the image. So you click over here, and to grab the image you can click on this and it'll bring you directly to here where it's the actual one that I'm highlighting right here for Debian 11 Clipper kernel 5.16, and this is posted on July 14th. It's 1.24 gigabits. I've already pulled it down so that we don't have to watch, but if you want to pull it down, you just click on it and it should pull down to your downloads directory. The other thing that we need to look at is we need a couple of softwares. So inside here, we're, well, they're talking about directions here, but down below, we're actually looking for some special stuff. There is a issue that I came across that I didn't understand initially, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But the actual install that we're interested in right now is going to require a download from the utilities over here, the driver, and then of course there's going to be the ZagDig. So let's get started with that first of all. Let's see if I have ZagDig in my downloads folder. Let me drag it over here and pull it up. So it does appear right here. So let's bring this up. I'm going to have to say yes on my computer so I can bring it over. Now, currently we're not seeing anything, so we're going to have to do list all devices. And the device that we're looking for is the unknown device number 1. So let me show you what happens when I disconnect this on the actual desk for a second. So I'm going to unplug this. Then we'll go back over to the desktop and see what happens. So you can see that it's gone, so that's the device we're looking for. It may have a different name in your case, but let me plug it back in so we can see it. And let's go back over to the desk. And as you can see, it's located right here. So the other thing that we have to do is pay attention to these numbers. So let me show you that real quick. I'm going to bring up the actual web page. And as you can see right here, this is what we're looking for our device. So let's compare that real quick. So you can see that it's 1F3A EFE8, which matches over here. So we have the right one. So now we actually have to install the drivers. So we're going to click over here and essentially it will install the actual driver. This may take a few moments to actually do, but while that's occurring, we also have to pull up PowerShell. Now I'm going to skip parts of the directions here because I found that they're not useful. So the only thing we're interested in is step 6. So I'll bring up PowerShell. And let me drag this over so you can see it. And the issue with PowerShell at the moment, let me minimize this a little so you can see, is that the actual directory path here goes to administrator, excuse me. Mine goes to my private directory, so I'm going to have to change directories to my downloads folder because that's where all the files are located. So I'm going to say CD for change directory, and then I'm going to say download. Now before I do that, let me show you ls, which is a listing of directories. Obviously the downloads directory is right here for downloads. So what we can do is we can type change directory, like I said before, type DOWN, then hit the tab button and it will auto complete it for you, then hit enter. That'll bring you to the directory and then we can list it real quick like so. So now we can see what's actually in there and what we're working with. So the next thing that we need to do, now that we've hopefully completed with this ZagDig, is that it's already installed the drivers. So we're good there. So let's try this command right here. I'm just going to skip directly to it. I know a couple people may or may not disagree. So I'm just going to do it this way because it's simpler and quicker. So I'll right click to paste it, press enter. And before I press enter, I would want to show you what's going on in the actual directory. Notice how I only have a C drive here. So now if we hit enter, what happens? So over in here, we should get a drive. It may not be E drive. It might be D or A or some other letter. But if you click on it, you can see it's a blank drive. So I've already downloaded, as you can see over here, the actual install image. So I'm going to go over to Raspberry Pi Imager, and I'm going to choose the device, and this is the newest version, so it's going to be slightly different. It's version 1.8.4. So I'm going to do no filtering. I'll do choose OS, I'll do custom, I'll go to my downloads directory and I'll grab that image and open it. Then I'll click on the storage for the eMMC, and then I'll do next. It's going to ask me if I want to do a special customization. I'm going to say no. Then I'm going to say yes to continuing. And this will take upwards of an hour to actually do, depending upon your computer. So it'll first start writing, and then it'll do verification. So what I'm going to do at this moment is pause the video until I get to that stage where it's almost verified, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, it's just about done. As you can see, it's taking a little bit of time. So we'll let this complete. It's probably about 4 or 5 seconds away. And now it's showing that it's complete. So let's close that for a second. I'm going to go over to the drive. Obviously, there's going to be a pop-up message. Click cancel on that. And then go over to your regular boot drive, which is right here. And as you can see, all these files now are on your drive. So there's going to be some issues. First issue that I came across had to do with the configuration of, let's see, I gotta find it here, the board ems.txt. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to open with Notepad++. Let me drag this over. So in here, there's an issue with the actual display for eMMC being something like this. So in order to use eMMC, there was a bug that someone wrote on this, which I'll show you now. So there's a bug right here that says that it's stuck on the boot screen. So one of the things that I found is way down here, they talk about exactly the issue that we were seeing, or would see. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. So it's right here. So essentially we want to use this inside our system config file. So let's go back over to it. We're in the boot environment in this case, but this is actually what we have to address, I believe. So let me put it below it so you can see what I'm saying, because we're not using an SD card. So I'm going to comment out this section right here, and that should take care of one of the issues that we're going to see. Now the boot login disguised, or excuse me, the boot logo disguised what I was seeing. So I'm going to change this to false. That way we can see it actually boot. And then I'm going to say Control S to save, and then I'm going to close out of here. The next issue that we're going to come across is we have to actually set up our Wi-Fi connectivity. So we have to find our system config. So we'll right click and we'll edit in Notepad again. Let me drag it across if it doesn't show up. Well, it actually showed up. So inside of here, we're actually going to be using the Wi-Fi. So this is the actual name of your router, and this is the name or password to your router. So I'm going to do this off screen, save it, and then I'll show you the next step after that. Okay, now that I have that saved out, I have to go over to my desk for a second. So let's go over here, and I'm going to have to power this down. So I'm going to remove the power from the power supply. Okay, now that that's done, we have to move the dip switches for 3 and 4 back. Okay, now that they're back, I can plug it back in, and I'm going to switch to the actual display for the screen for the HDMI over here. So let's power it up. So this is going to take a second to boot, so it's going to be blank for a moment. I know it's kind of frustrating, but give it a second so that we can actually see what's occurring. And here we go. So I disabled the normal splash screen, so you won't see the actual boot screen where it says Big Tree Tech. The reason being is I wanted to see what was occurring. So obviously it's going to take a second to come up, and it will be a blank screen for a second or two more, hopefully. But with eMMC, it does boot faster. So this is what our display would look like. And right now it's checking to see if there's any issues, and it's come across a couple, obviously. So let's go over to the actual router to see what's occurring. So I'm going to bring this up, and I blurred out part of the screen, so I'm going to hit refresh. Obviously, you're not going to see my login or username for the actual router, but you will see the actual IP address right here for what appears with Wi-Fi. So let's go over and open up a browser, paste this in, and then hit enter. Now this is going to show eventually the actual configuration and the issues. So we don't have a config file first. So let's go over to machine, and as you can see, we've got mainsail. We don't have anything in our printer config except for a couple of things here. So let's see, it's saying to use mainsail. It's trying to point towards something. So we have to create a file name that it can actually point to. So let's go over to the Manta configuration for version 2. We'll then click on the actual hardware and we'll see if it's in here. It's not. So what this does show though is the pinouts that you can see for each one of the steppers over in here and all the other things that are around the board, such as our extruders. Our extruders are over here and our heat bed is over here, but our thermistors is what I'm actually referring to. So you can see thermal bed and thermal hot end. Those are going to be important in a minute. That's why I came over to here. But let's go back over to version 2, go to firmware. It's already loaded, plus this naming is incorrect. It's actually supposed to be firmware.bin, but it's already preloaded on your board, so you don't have to worry about it. But what we're interested in is this. So let's copy the name first. Then we're going to go over to here, and we're going to paste the name right here. And then we're going to save and close. Now we have to create a file. So we'll create a file. We'll name it this right here, and then create it. So this is the actual config file that we're going to use. What we're going to have to do though is we're going to have to go back over here, click on this, then you can click right here to copy raw, go back over here, and then do Control V or right click and paste. And this is the actual configuration for all your pins. Hopefully it's correct. But one of the things I like to show you all is that I want to copy this piece right here. So I'm going to do a Control X. And then I'm going to go up here and Control V to paste it. So this is where it thinks it is at the moment, but that is not where it is yet. So I'll show you how to check that. We have to open up TerraTerm. So this is basically a way to connect. Obviously you can't see me open it at the moment, but we're going to have to go over to File, New Connection, change this to a 3, so 192.168.1.3, then OK. Then we'll say Continue. And remember where I said the password over here for the actual board is going to be, sorry, I got to scroll up to it, BIQU. So let's do that over here. So we'll paste it. Well, I guess we can't paste it because I've got something else in the buffer. So I'll type BIQU, and then I'll do the same for the passphrase, which is your password. And then I'll say OK. If this works, it'll log us in, which it has. And now we have to figure out what our actual configuration is. So this is where Klipper comes in. So we're going to have to go to Installation Configuration, Installation, scroll down a bit, and down here there's a command that we have to use, being list the devices for the serial by ID, and anything that's there is a wildcard. So that's what that little star is. So we'll go over to here, right click to paste it, hit enter, and this is the actual device path. So I'm going to highlight this, right click to copy, minimize this for a second, go over to here, and I'll put it below so you can see the difference. So serial colon space, paste it, and you can see there's a difference. So you can always comment this one out. I believe it's with a hash mark, so it turned green, so it's a comment now. So we'll do a save and restart. Now this is going to look slightly different. There's still going to be an error. So if you go over to here, you can see that Klipper is not working yet, and it's going to say ADC out of range. That means that we have to put on thermistors. So I'm going to go over to the desk camera, grab 2 thermistors, and I'm going to plug them in. Normally I would do this when it's off, but I showed you where they were. So first we'll do the heat bed, and then we'll do the actual hot end 1, because that's all we have configured at the moment. And I'll show you what these look like real quick. This is the thermistor, and it tells temperature by the passing of current through here, and when we put our hand on it, will heat up and tell temperature. So let me put that down for a moment, and let's go back over to the desktop. Let's do a refresh of this again. So basically we're going to do a firmware restart and see what happens. Hopefully it resolves the issue, which it has. So now you can see that there's actual temperature here. So let me show you how to test that real quick. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger on this, and you're going to see that it's going to rise over in here, hopefully. So I don't know if you can see the cursor and the 2 things, but watch what happens. So now I've got my finger on it, and the temperature should start to rise. I'll go back to the other screen in a second, but I just want to get it so it's going up a little bit. So it looks like the extruder temperature is increasing to 25.76. So that's about my body temperature. So let's take a closer look on the actual desktop. You can see there was a little rise right here, and now it's starting to drop. So that's how you can test that. Currently we have no end stops connected, so I'm going to show you this real quick. It's an M119, so they should all be triggered. And as you can see, they're all triggered without an end stop connected. So there are a couple other things I want to show you real quick, and that's actual software updates. Hopefully I can figure out where they are real quick. So in here, there's a place where the actual software will be updated. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So maybe it's on console, no. G-code, no. History, no. This is a slightly different version that I'm used to. There it is, machine. It's on the right hand side. If you need to update this, the first thing you want to start with is actually your system packages. Otherwise all these get weird. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. If you go over to here, let me get rid of this line real quick. You're going to type sudo space apt update, and then it's going to prompt you probably for a password in a second after you've done this on the next step for upgrade. This should take probably 25-30 minutes to do before you can actually fully use it. So I'll pause the video when it gets to that point after the upgrade portion. So let's give it a moment more to see how long this takes. Hopefully it's going to be pretty quick. But it's just going out and updating the list of where the actual updates will be for the upgrade. So hopefully it's going to be kind of quick. So let's see if we're almost there. Otherwise I'll pause this in a second. Okay, looks like we're almost there. And it looks like it's about to grab something, so I'm going to give it a pause for a second. Okay, it just completed about a minute or two later. So now we're going to hit up arrow. And we're going to type upgrade. Now this will take some time. It will probably prompt you for a password because we're doing sudo apt-get. So let's see what happens. So any second now it should pop and say, do you want to continue? We'll say yes, then enter. And maybe it'll prompt for a password. Let's give it a second and see what happens here. So looks like it's going along fine for the moment. I'm going to pause the video, and once this completes, we'll take a closer look at what's going on. Apparently it doesn't look like it requires a password at this moment, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, it looks like it's completed over here for the update of the OS, so let's go back over to here. Let's refresh this real quick. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to upgrade all these, so you can do check for updates. This is going to take a second probably to do. It could take upwards of 20-25 minutes, but I'm just giving you an estimate. It might be quicker depending upon your system. But as you can see, it's pulling down stuff as we speak. And then you'll be able to upgrade these. You may have to be careful in the order that you do them, but it should be pretty simple. And then you'll be able to use it. So let's give this a couple minutes to actually update, and then we'll check on the progress. And by the way, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe, because that way other people will be able to see what you're seeing. And I do have to thank my patrons on Patreon, as well as PayPal and Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, because without their support, this would be very expensive for me to do for you. So as you can see, it's already just completed this, so we can do update all components and let this run for a while. Hopefully they'll all turn green and say up to date. On occasion there may be issues in the future where this might not update correctly, and the reason is sometimes packages change and things will change in the actual setup, but there's always a workaround or a wiki to go to. So let's pause this for a second, see if it completes, and then we're pretty much done after that. Okay, this is what it's going to look like once the update's completed, so click try again. And hopefully you can click close, and then we can see what's looking to be pretty good over here. So as you can see, they're all up to date. So at this moment, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch my video, and I'll place a thank you note at the end for my patrons, people on PayPal, and Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. So everyone, take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you later.